The only one thing I'd like to point out in this video is you're not too late, right? So I'm at this event. It's $7,000 a ticket. There's 2,000 people here. And you know, I'm talking to a lot of attendees, and the thing I realize is all these attendees, very few of them own Bitcoin, and very few of them are even remotely interested in Bitcoin. And they've obviously heard of it, they've watched it, but they're just not convinced. And the big emotion is, I'm too late.
Mathematician Fred Krueger believes that even though Bitcoin has been around for 15 years, it's still not too late to invest in it. He's at an expensive event with lots of successful investors, but most of them don't own or care about Bitcoin. Many of them feel like they've missed their chance to get in early, which makes them hesitant to invest now. However, Fred believes they're wrong. He points out that Bitcoin always seems expensive, like when it hits $1,000 or $10,000, but it keeps growing. He thinks the same thing will happen again, even if it hits $500,000. Stay until the end of the video to hear Fred Krueger as he reveals more predictions about the future price of Bitcoin. Also guys, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy staying up to date with finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free and you can always change your mind. Now here's Fred Krueger on how interest rates will affect Bitcoin.
These guys are generally pride themselves on being early to these trends, and they got in early. They got in at the Series A. They got in before, you know, the IPO. They started a company. They, you know, they're early stage investors and early stage participants. And for them to sit there and say, you know what, I missed the first 15 years of Bitcoin, and I'm going to get involved now. It's a little difficult for them, you know, it's a difficult psychological perception. And I heard, you know, one of them says to me, you know, listen, yeah, sure, Bitcoin's done well over the last 15 years, but, you know, is it going to do well over the next 15 years? And, you know, I've been trying to explain to them why I think it will, and you know, the power law and adoption and why Bitcoin's different. But you can tell that they don't really get it and they don't really believe it. So all I will say is I think that there's this sort of fractal pattern of Bitcoin where, you know, at 2013 it looked expensive when it hit $1,000, and then, you know, in 2017 when it hit $10,000, it looked very expensive, you know, and now here at $56,000, it looks very expensive. So it always looked, and I think it'll look expensive when it hits $500,000, which I think it will. So, you know, there's this general feeling that, you know, I missed it, I'm stupid, I can't invest now, among these people. I don't think it's the same feeling among sort of stock market investors who just invest, you know, just invest in a bunch of stuff and, okay, I'll buy some Bitcoin. That's different than this crew of people who should be involved and who should do the work and who should spend the time. They're not spending the time. So that's my post for today. I think it's really interesting. I don't think these people are going to participate. If I had to guess, I think they're going to miss out all the way on the next 10x. I just don't see them really flipping the switch. You know, I've talked to a bunch of them, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm not convinced that these guys will get it. It's interesting that even people who are much lower on the economic ladder get this a lot easier than some of these people attending these high-end tech events. Anyways, one of the things that's pretty clear recently is that Ethereum is losing market share to Bitcoin. And you know, I posted this thing on Twitter saying, you know, in tech, it really tends to be a winner takes all. Google really has the entire search engine market for themselves. Maybe there's Bing, DuckDuckGo, 1-2%, but it's really all Google. YouTube has the video hosting market for itself. In terms of consumer electronics, there's both Apple and Android, but it's Apple dominates that market. It's just in chips, it's NVIDIA, AI chips, it's NVIDIA. It just keeps on and on and on. There's a few exceptions to prove the rule, but overall, as you get bigger in tech, you get more power and you can innovate more, and there's a feedback loop. And if you get weak, you let people go, you get weaker. And it really is a winner take all. And we're seeing that in Bitcoin, right? Versus especially Ethereum, and lower tokens. You could sort of say Ethereum is the Pepsi to Coke. Pepsi's done okay, but they've done okay by acquiring other brands. It's very, very rare right now to get offered Pepsi in a restaurant anymore. It's all Coke, and so I think the what people perceive as value in cryptocurrency is increasingly Bitcoin. That is the standard for value in the digital world, and I think it's going to remain the standard. There's a great book out by Reese and Trout called Positioning, and it really says that the human brain is really only capable of attributing one winner per category. And when if it's ketchup, it's Heinz. If it's soft drinks, it's Coke, etc. So that's the way we think. We tend to position things as a winner. And the only way you can escape this is if you define a new category, right? So and the example of that is, who's the first person to cross the Atlantic? It's Charles Lindbergh. Who's the second person? No idea. Nobody even remembers the second person to cross the Atlantic in a plane. Who's the third person? Well, it's Amelia Earhart, because she was the first woman to fly across the Atlantic in a plane. So that's a great book. I recommend it. And I just think that we are in a winner-take-all market, and I just don't think it's a great idea to fade this or to be too smart with it. As you guys know, I used to be a bond trader, and that meant I watched interest rates like crazy. And one of my nicknames was Fred Krueger the Merc, because I traded a ton of U.S. Interest rate futures, in particular LIBOR futures, on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and they would always be calling Fred Krueger the Merc, pick up, to close my trades at the end of the day. And so I'd have to come in and I'd be like, okay, was that one yours? Was that one yours? Was that one yours? That one yours? It's because I would be buying and selling so many Eurodollar futures. So the Eurodollars is something that I traded a lot of. I was very, very involved in interest rates. And I got to tell you, this is the most important thing in the world, is what is interest rate policy. And as Marty Zweig, who was sort of an icon in the stock market for a long time, and you can check out his old books. Winning on Wall Street was one of his books. Marty always said, don't fight the Fed. And I think you cannot underestimate how important this next cycle is going to be. We are at 5 3/8 right now in interest rates, and we are going to have somewhere between a 25 and a 50 basis point rate cut next Wednesday, and we're going to be having some discussion as to the future path of interest rates. But I think the most important thing is if you look at where Fed fund futures are trading. And I was just opened that up today, and I was just, oh my God. Interest rates are 5 3/8. The futures on interest rates in December of 2025 are at 9719, which says that the interest rate that people are betting on, the prediction market for interest rates, is effectively 280. 280. So the market's telling us we're going from 5.5% interest rates to something below 3% in a year. That is a massive, massive move, okay? And when you have $4 trillion in money market funds, they're just sitting there. When you have $200 trillion worth of bonds out there, and you lower interest rates from 5 3/8 to below 3%, which is what is going to happen, you're going to have a flight to risk assets. What does that mean? That means equities go up. That means real estate goes up, okay? That means bonds go up, and that means Bitcoin goes up. And it also means gold goes up. And we're starting to see that gold today, for the first time ever, trading above $2,600 per ounce. And that really should tell you, because there's no Mount Gox of gold. There's no Germany selling their gold reserves. In fact, it's the exact opposite. China's buying tons of gold. And I think this is going to happen to Bitcoin, but even more, right? So we are in a potentially absolutely explosive scenario for 2025, really starting after this election, but for the next 12 months could be just absolutely explosive on the upside for Bitcoin. I definitely think something like 200,000 is definitely in the cards for end of 2025. We could be at something like 3 to 4 times higher than where we are now. I think it's going to be an absolutely amazing risk return. I would not play it with too much leverage. If you want to have any leverage at all, I prefer no leverage. I always prefer no leverage. But I think you should be heavily allocated to Bitcoin. I think it's going to do extremely well.
Fred Krueger is saying that interest rates are expected to drop soon, and when that happens, a lot of people will likely put their money into things like Bitcoin. Right now, interest rates are high, but they could fall below 3% by the end of 2025. When interest rates go down, people often look for better ways to invest their money, and Bitcoin is one of those options. He thinks this could make Bitcoin's price jump a lot up to $200,000 by 2025. Krueger is pretty sure that Bitcoin could go up 3 to 4 times what it's worth today. He suggests investing in Bitcoin now, but warns against borrowing money to do it. Anyway guys, before we go, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, make sure to subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis, trusted by over 50,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Don't miss out on the opportunity to stay informed in the crypto market. The link is in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed today's video and that it provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.